All right. Well, finances is a long and interesting story for me. So I guess the rule is that when your parents get divorced, they have to choose with whose child is whose. So basically, if I belong to my father or my mother, and my parents decided that they weren't going to decide initially, so they said, you won't have to decide until you're 18. So came time for me to decide where I was going to college and how I was going to finance it, and I started having to know whose child I was at this point. So I had the option of either saying that I was dependent upon my mother or my father. Now, I hadn't lived with my mother at this point for 3 years, and the law states that in order to be dependent upon someone, you have to live with them for a certain amount of time in order to use that dependency for financial aid. So therein lied the problem. If I had gone with my mom as my caregiver, then I would have. Then if I'd gone with my mom as my caregiver, then I would have had loans up the wazoo, or not loans, but scholarships, grants, whatever, all sorts of aid. But because I hadn't lived with her for a while, I ended up going with my dad as my caregiver, and legally, which meant that I was legally dependent upon him. But because he made a certain amount of money, I wasn't really eligible for most scholarships, at least that were need-based, or grants or anything of that sort. So it ended up coming down to loans. But it ended up working out in the end. Just it'll take a little while to pay off my debt.